We have a quorum? Yep, all right. Good evening and welcome to tonight's Monroe City Council meeting. This is a regular business meeting for Tuesday, October 25th, 2022. The time right now is 7 p.m. I'm going to ask our clerk, Wyckoff, to call the roll. And as always, I need to hit the microphone real quick. There you go.
Thank you, Mayor. Council members present and establishing a quorum are council members Fulcher, Kinney, Hanford, Davis, Fisher, and Scarborough. And for the record, Councilmember Fisher is attending remotely.
All right, thank you. And we did hear at an earlier meeting that Councilmember Gamble would not be here due to another commitment. Unless there's opposition or objection, we'll consider his absence as excused. Seeing no objection, we'll go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda. And that item would be the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilmember Davis has already given an okay for our two representatives who are here tonight, Representative Steele and Representative Gaynor, to lead us on the pledge. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. All right, the next item on the agenda is announcements and presentations. And this evening we have a presentation or announcements from Representative Steele and Representative Gaynor. So I'm going to invite the two of them up here to the podium. I'm going to go ahead and turn on the microphone and I'll just say a few words this evening. Councilmember Steele and Representative Steele and Representative Gaynor were kind enough to join us in a ribbon cutting ceremony for our multi-use sidewalk or path or on the West Side Trail on Chain Lake. It was a pleasure having them join us. Part of the money that we had came by way of the Department of Transportation. We truly appreciate the partnership with the state of Washington and with our two new representatives. And we had a nice time before the meeting this evening, talking about our legislative agenda for the year or the draft that we have, also walking them through part of the administrative building here through what will become the future justice wing and into PD and then over and met with some of our senior leadership team members and council members and just got to know everybody. So I really appreciate the two of you coming here this evening and the podium's yours. Please go ahead.
Well, thank you, Mayor. As you said, Mike Steele, State Representative. I'm in my third term in the House of Representatives, but I come to you with a background in local government. I served 2 terms on the City Council in Chelan before being elected to the State House. I currently serve as the ranking member of the Capital Budget. I'm on the Appropriations Committee and was the ranking member of the K-12 Education Committee before assuming that role in the Budget Committee, but still serve on the K-12 Education Committee. Born and raised in Lake Chelan. Graduated with business degrees from Pacific Lutheran University and have been in the state most of my life. 5 generations, well 6 now, family in the Lake Chelan area, and we love Washington, and it's been a joy and an honor to serve in the legislature with an eye recognizing that we have a whole state to represent, not just the district we reside in. So we look forward to getting to know this new district, getting to know all of you and the work you're doing here in Monroe. We're very excited to be representing the whole city of Monroe and look forward to the many partnerships and opportunities that we think we will have moving forward into the next year. So thank you for having us this evening.
Thank you.
I too appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. I'm State Representative Keith Gaynor. I'm in my 2nd term and looking forward to serving a 3rd. And as I mentioned before, I feel very confident because I'm running unopposed. So but my background in local government has been as a Chelan County Commissioner. I served 4 terms there, and it's a great opportunity to work with cities and neighboring counties and being involved on statewide boards and commissions. It really gives you a real insight into the different aspects of this state. But with this new district that we are serving now, which includes what formerly was the 39th, the more that Representative Steele and I have been over here on this side and trying to get a good grasp of what the issues will be for us to adequately represent you, we realize that we have a lot in common. A lot of the issues that are facing the state as a whole are unique. They're not unique, at all, because what we have on the east side, the issues are somewhat similar to a lot of things that we have here on the west side. Obviously, there are differences too, but our challenge is to adequately represent everyone within the 12th district. And it's great to be, partnering with you as we go forward, because it's, my, background in local government, and I've always felt strongly that the best government is the one that's closest to the people. And you've been empowered by your communities, by your election to this council to serve, and appreciate your commitment. And I look forward to, working with you so that we can partner that together to make, the society as a whole and our communities better and stronger, and provide more opportunities for our constituents. So thank you for your willingness to serve. As I said, it is it's a task that you've taken on, and your city appreciates that. And I appreciate the opportunity now to begin to have a better understanding of what Monroe's issues are and how I can better represent you in the legislative arena. I do live in the Leavenworth area. I kind of use that as a frame of reference. I actually live in Dryden. Right now we have orchard, and we grow pears. So I have an ag background, but as I said, the other experiences that I've had have certainly helped me understand the governing part of it. So once again, thank you for hosting us today. It's been a great time just being here in Monroe, meeting new people. It was fun to be a part of that new extension. I mean, that's a great project that you guys were able to pull off, and everyone will benefit from it. So thank you for this time.
Thank you very much. Great. Thank you very much. Great. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda. That would be public comments. This is the time set aside for members of the public to speak to the county on any issue related to the city of Monroe, except, We've decided to declare ourselves a county here. Thank you. Welcome to the county of Monroe. You heard it here first. So we're going to try to strike the record there, and I'm going to start over. All right, this is now I know why Pam was smirking at me. All right, so public comments. This is a time for set aside for members of the public to speak to the city council on any issue related to the city of Monroe, except any quasi judicial matter that is subject to a public hearing. 3 minutes are afforded to each speaker. If you're interested in speaking and you're in the audience, please raise your hand. Okay. Seeing nobody, we're going to go ahead and see if there's anybody online that would like to speak to the council. And if that's the case, please raise your remote hand. If you're on the phone, hit *9. All right, seeing none, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda. That item would be agenda item number 6, which is public hearing. This is a public hearing, item 6.1, for final action, ordinance number 027-2022, adopting interim zoning regulations to chapter 22.12 Monroe Municipal Code MMC definitions with Anita Marrero. Planner Marrero, Senior Planner Marrero, please go ahead. If you could hit your microphone so I know which one you are. Thank you. Tonight you're Ben Worthen, by the way. Okay, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I'm here to present the public hearing for ordinance number 027/2022, adopting interim zoning regulations to chapter 22.12 MMC. Staff brought the proposed amendments to chapter 22.12 for discussion on September 20th. At that meeting, City Council expressed the desire to conduct a more comprehensive review and overhaul of the UDR definitions. The current interim ordinance will automatically sunset on November 10th. The council has the authority to extend the interim ordinance for another 6 months. This will allow staff to bring forth the definitions to council for further review. A public hearing is required to adopt ordinance number 027/2022 to extend for an additional 6-month period the interim zoning regulations originally adopted under ordinance number 14-2022. Adoption of this ordinance is necessary in order to prevent the accrual of vested development rights that are inconsistent with the city's community planning vision, while permanent regulations are developed, vetted, and processed through the city's standard legislative procedures. The requested actions are outlined in the agenda bill today, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, thank you very much. So we're going to go ahead and open up the public testimony portion of our public hearing here shortly. Before I do that, are there any questions for clarification from the council? All right, seeing none, we're going to go ahead and open this up to public testimony. If there's somebody interested in providing public testimony on this item, please raise your hand if you're in the audience. And if you're online, please go ahead and hit *9 if you're on the phone, or select your remote hand icon if you're in Zoom. All right, seeing none, I turn to the council. There is no public testimony this evening. Councilmember Davis, go ahead.
I'll move to close the public testimony portion of the public hearing.
Second, Fulcher.
I have a motion from Councilmember Davis, a second from Councilmember Fulcher to close the public testimony portion of the public hearing. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll move to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 6-0. Councilmember Fisher, you said aye? Okay, thank you. All right, motion passes 6-0. Thank you. Councilmember Davis?
I'll move to waive section 7.4 of the council rules of procedure to allow adoption of the ordinance after first reading.
Fulcher.
I have a motion from Councilmember Davis, a second from Councilmember Fulcher for the requested, I'm sorry, you moved to waive the section 7.4? Okay, and I'm sorry, did I miss the motion to close the public hearing?
Yes, you did. I'm sorry. I
Okay, since there's
I
a
missed
motion
it.
on the table, we're going to go ahead and vote on that. I would request that you vote in opposition to this right now so that we can come back to it. All in favor? All opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Motion fails 0-6. Councilmember Davis, go ahead.
All right, this time I'll move to close the public hearing. Did we do that?
I have a motion to close the public hearing from Councilmember Davis, a second from Councilmember Hanford. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll move to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. Councilmember Davis? I'm assuming that you'd still like to go ahead.
Might as well, yeah.
Okay.
So I'll move to waive section 7.4 of the council rules of procedure to allow adoption of an ordinance after first reading.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Davis, a second from Councilmember Scarborough for the third requested action, which is moving to waive section 7.4 of the council rules of procedure, et cetera. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll move to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. Councilmember Davis?
And I'll finish
If you
up.
turn off your light, I'll call on someone else.
I'd only have to turn it back on again, so we'll. To finish it up, I'll move to adopt ordinance number 027/2022, extending for an additional 6-month period the interim zoning regulations originally adopted under ordinance number 014/2022.
Second, Fulcher.
Councilmember Davis, I'm going to turn to our clerk, Clerk Wyckoff. Do we need to read the rest of the motion?
Oh, so again.
Okay, thank you. I was just looking at what's online.
Ah.
Okay, sounds good. So the motion's been read into the record. Any discussion on, and the second, was it Councilmember Fulcher? Okay, so Councilmember, motion made by Councilmember Davis, seconded by Councilmember Fulcher for requested action number 4, with what's showing on the screen to the semicolon, which would be adopting the interim zoning regulations as described in that clause. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll move to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. And I see that Councilmember Davis has turned his light off. So, all right, thank you. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda. That's item 6.2, public hearing for 2023-2024 revenue sources in 2023-2024, recommended biennial budget with our finance director, Director Hassert. Senior Planner Monroe, thank you very much for your presentation on the last one, by the way. Thank you. Director Hassert, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So tonight is the third and final budget hearing for the 2023-24 biennial budget and the proposed 2023 property taxes. The first public hearing was held on October 11th, at which there were no comments received. The second public hearing was held last Tuesday, October 18th, where again, there were no comments received. And who knows tonight, but after we are not asking for any action after the public hearing. However, later in your agenda that we do have the first reading scheduled for the actual budget ordinance, as well as first reading for the property tax. And my colleague here will have first reading for the related 6-year capital facilities plan. So with that, Mr. Mayor, since we've already done the presentation, I am available for questions, but I turn it back to you.
All right. Thank you, Director Hassard. And with that, I move to the council. I'm sorry, I'm going to open a public hearing. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open up the public hearing for public testimony. If you're interested in speaking to this item this evening, please raise your hand if you're in the public, in the council chambers. If not, and you're online, please raise your hand. Again, *9 if you're on the phone, or hit your Zoom little hand icon on the screen. All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and I'm going to turn to the council to consider closing the public testimony portion of the public hearing. Councilmember Scarborough, go ahead.
I'll move to close the public testimony portion of the public hearing.
I have a motion to close the public testimony portion of the public hearing from Councilmember Scarrow, a second from Councilmember Hanford. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll move to vote. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. There was another motion on the screen. That was good. You're speeding up the meeting there. Sorry, go ahead, Councilmember Scarborough.
Yeah, I'll move to close the public hearing.
I have a motion to close the public hearing from Councilmember Scarborough, a second from Councilmember Hanford. Any discussion on the motion to close the public hearing? Seeing none, we'll move to vote. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Abstentions? Councilmember Fisher, I didn't hear you, but I did see that you said aye when I looked at your video. Thank you. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda. Thank you very much, Director Hassard and Council. That next item on the agenda would be consent agenda. I turn to Council. Councilmember Kinney.
Approve the consent agenda as provided in the packet.
I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as provided in the packet from Councilmember Kinney, a second from Councilmember Scarborough. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll move to vote. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is new business under item 8.1. This is ordinance number 029-2022, an ordinance of the City of Monroe, Washington, fixing the amount of real and personal property taxes to be levied by the city for calendar year 2023, providing for severability and establishing an effective date for first reading. Director Hassert, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Unfortunately, I had it backwards on my screen, so I might have to wing this a little bit. As I mentioned during the public hearing, we did hold the third and final public hearing on the budget and the proposed property tax rate or levy earlier this evening. We have not received any public comments at any of the 3 public hearings. So what is now before you is the proposed property tax levy. We do have, unlike the biennial budget, we do have to adopt the property tax levy every year, and then it has to be certified with the county before the end of November. We did do during the first public hearing, we went through in detail exactly what we are requesting for the property taxes, including the use of $241,063 in bank capacity. And we went through exactly what that would be buying you in this biennium budget during the budget presentation last week on October 18th. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I will turn it back over to you, and I am available if there are any questions.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions for Director Hassard, or is there a motion from the council? Councilmember Hanford, go ahead.
I think that since there's been no questions at all after 3 public hearings, that just speaks to the great job that staff is doing. So appreciate that. I move to accept as first reading ordinance number 029, 2022. An ordinance of the city of Monroe, Washington, fixing the amount of real and personal property taxes to be levied by the city for calendar year 2023, providing for severability and establishing an effective date.
I have a motion from Councilmember Hanford, a second from Councilmember Kenny for the requested action that is shown on the screen right now for new business item 8.1 regarding the 2023 property tax levy. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll move to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, everybody. Next item on the agenda is ordinance number 028, 2022, an ordinance of the city of Monroe, Washington, adopting the biennial budget for the fiscal period beginning January 1st, 2023 and ending December 31, 2024, providing for severability and establishing an effective date for first reading. Director Hassert, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So again, as I had explained during the first reading for the property tax ordinance, we have held 3 public hearings on the proposed biennium budget. We have received no public comments for or against the budget. Thank you for accepting for first reading the property tax ordinance. One of the items that is included in the budget is the use of the bank capacity. We want to be very upfront about that. The biennium budget, we are looking at just shy of 199 million over the 2-year period for all funds. That includes issuance of close to 37 million in bonds to help support some of our capital projects, which we will be bringing to the start of which we will be bringing to the Finance and Human Resources Committee next month. But with that, Mr. Mayor, I think the presentation spoke for itself last week, so I am available if there are any questions.
All right. Thank you very much, Director Hassert. Any questions or motion from the council? Councilmember Fulcher, go ahead.
Move to accept as first reading ordinance number 028, 2022, an ordinance of the city of Monroe, Washington, adopting the biennial budget for the fiscal period beginning January 1, 2023, ending December 31, 2024, providing for severability and establishing an effective date.
Thank you very much. We have a motion from Councilmember Fulcher, a second from Councilmember Hanford for the requested action that is shown on the screen for new business item 8.2, ordinance number 028, 2022 for the 2023-2024 biennial budget. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll move to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
And thank you, Director Hassert. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda. That's new business item 8.3, ordinance number 026, 2022, amending the capital facilities element of the comprehensive plan and adopting the revised 2023-2029 capital facilities plan for first reading. This would be our Director of Public Works, Director Roberts. And Director Roberts, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to follow Becky's lead here and go with the short form presentation tonight. Just a reminder, the capital facilities plan that you see here has 37 different projects that are in various stages, pre-design, construction, also in closeout. Total funding planned expenditures around 33 million. And all of the projects in some way or another are guided by Imagine Monroe and fit into one of those kind of boxes of the healthy natural built environment, something that is sustainable for regional connections, a lively center, community-centered infrastructure, a safe place for all. That concludes my presentation. Mary, turn it back to you if there are any questions.
Thank you, Director Roberts. Are there any questions for staff or a motion? Councilmember Kinney, go ahead.
I move to accept as first reading ordinance number 026, 2022, amending the capital facilities element of the Monroe Comprehensive Plan, adopting a revised and updated 6-year capital facilities plan for the years 2023 through 2029, concurrently with the city's 2023-2024 budget, adopting supporting legislative findings, providing for severability, and establishing an effective date.
Second, Fulcher.
I have a motion from Councilmember Kinney, a second from Councilmember Fulcher for the requested action shown on the screen right now, which is new business item 8.3, ordinance number 026, 2022, 2023, 2029, capital facilities plan. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll move to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much, Director Roberts. Okay, we're going to go into Councilmember reports now, and I'll start with Councilmember Davis to my left. Councilmember Davis, go ahead.
Nothing to report this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Fulcher.
Continuing to enjoy the Citizens Academy with my cohort here, Councilmember Kenny. And other than that, just enjoying the rain. Thank you, God. And don't know if I could say that in chambers, but I'm gonna. Thank you, God. And enjoying life Monroe as we know it. So thanks.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Kenny, go ahead.
We had a great turnout at our cemetery tour up at IOOF Cemetery on Saturday. Several people here were there. Ms. Fulcher, Councilmember Fulcher was there. Parks Director Mike Farrell was there, and it was very well attended. We could not believe that people came out in the rain and cold and were enraptured for 2 solid hours as we walked around the cemetery. So we were really, really pleased that that many people cared about local history. It was really good turnout. And Citizens Academy is ongoing and really enjoying that. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hanford, go ahead.
Excuse me. Thank you, Mayor. Nothing to report as far as city business, but I keep forgetting to bring up, and I just wanted to throw out a friendly reminder that as we look into and are planning for the next council chambers, one of the things that I brought up before was that it'd be nice if we weren't all in a straight line, because then we can see each other better and have more of an angled dais. So just want a friendly reminder to bring that up again.
The current designs show a wide curve. We'll be able to see one another without going like this.
Great. I mean, I like hair.
It won't be the tight U that we had before. It won't be the tight U that we had before, but
Yeah.
it'll be more like other councils are. Anything further, council member?
That's it. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Fisher, I turn to you online.
I have nothing to report, but I am also very thankful for the rain.
I'm sure you are. Thank you. Councilmember Scarborough, go ahead.
I also attended the cemetery thing. My disappointment was only that there wasn't more time to learn more about up there. And can somebody tell me what IOOF stands for? What?
Thank you.
What is it?
International Organization of.
Okay. Thank you. And I, in my walk around, I got to talk to the gentleman and gave the presentation and showed us the book of where to go to look for whom. And found my wife's grandmother and grandfather that were there and some other relatives that were there. And there's more relatives across the street. So although I don't have direct relatives there, my wife's entire family is from there. And they lived in the White House across from the golf course, which was at one time a roller rink, because there's nothing inside but wood floors. And it was a community center where they cooked downstairs and had roller rink and other functions up on top. So my wife has a lot of history here, as does her whole family. I actually had a postcard I showed Tammy of my wife's grandmother running down Main Street in about 1910 in the 4th or 5th, I think it was on the 5th of July, it says, but it's the 4th of July celebration with her sister close behind her, running in those high shoes you see in Old West movies. But there's quite a history here for Mrs. Smith. It was enjoyable up there. Like I say, I only regret that I didn't have more time to hunt more people up. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. All right, we're going to go ahead and I think I've gone through everybody. Yes. We're going to go ahead and go to PD then for staff reports. And I turn to Chief Jolly and just turning on your microphone. There we go.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. Mr. Mayor, Council, pleasure to be here. I would just submit that our department report is within your packet. I would point out a couple things on the first page It mentions an accident in which a driver was unconscious and the officer administered Narcan because the individual was not breathing due to drug use. Unfortunately, this is becoming more and more common in our community. And regardless of what you think about addiction and drug addicts, the ripple effect is always 10 times greater of those they leave behind, family members and children and such. And our officers are doing a big part to save a lot of lives utilizing this tool. So we're very fortunate for that, and hopefully will help stem some of the greater issues surrounding drug use. And then thanks to our resident council members who've been attending our community academy. It's much appreciated, and appreciate your input and support. And I'm available for questions.
All right, thank you very much, Chief. Are there any questions for Chief Jolly? All right, thank you very much, Chief. I'm going to go ahead and turn now to a finance report with Director Hassert. Director Hassert, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since you've probably heard from me enough this evening, I will just point out that the finance report is in the packet and I am available for any questions.
All right, thank you very much, Director Hassert. Are there any questions for Director Hassert? All right, seeing none, we're going to go ahead and move on. Thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the Mayor and City Administrative Report, and that would be Administrator Knight. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Looking forward to next Tuesday, November 1st. We will have a Public Safety Committee meeting. Chief Jolly is going to talk about the WASPIC accreditation for the department. And I'm going to give the Public Safety Committee an update on some recent law changes for civil protection orders. Then moving forward to 6:30 p.m., just a reminder that we will be recognizing our board and commission members and honoring them for the work that they do on behalf of the mayor, council, and for the city. At 7 p.m., we'll have our regular study session and a business meeting. We will have a presentation from Snohomish Health District. Under consent, our regular accounts payable meeting minutes, and then street tree planting contract with Dustin Harvey. Under new business, we've got a government relations contract planned, lodging tax advisory committee appointments, ordinance for municipal code chapter 23, dedication of easements of right-of-way, first reading with Mr. Roberts, and then the Snohomish County Public Safety Coalition with the mayor and myself. Under discussion, we have proposed amendments to council rules of procedure that's coming forward from the legislative committee to the council for consideration, and then reports that evening from community development. And then our Tuesday, November 8th meeting is canceled in recognition of Election Day. So we will meet again on November 15th.
All right, thank you very much, Administrator Knight. Any questions from the council? Councilmember Hanford, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. One of the things we talked about last week was possibly doing the Legislative Affairs Committee meeting on the following Tuesday. I think that's the 15th. So I just wanted to throw that out there and see, since we're canceling it for the 8th, that's Election Day.
That would normally be then the finance committee meeting. Do you need to meet that evening? You do. Okay.
Yeah.
Would it be okay, Councilmember Hanford, if staff reached out to you and the other committee members to see about scheduling another day and time?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
So staff will reach out to you about another day and time.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Anything else? Councilmember Kenny, go ahead.
I was just curious about the P3 committee. Ms. Wyckoff, I received an email from you asking for some alternate dates, and I was just wondering if we had arrived at a rescheduled time for that committee meeting.
We have not yet. First before we firm up a date, but I'll definitely be in touch as soon as I know something.
Great, thank you.
All right, any other questions from council? All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to the city administrator report. Administrator Knight, go ahead.
Thank you. The only additional item I have to report is just an announcement that the Monroe Chamber is hosting the Snohomish County Chamber of Commerce Mega Mixer on Thursday, the 17th. That's at the Monroe School Admin Building. That big mixer doesn't happen very often. So if you get an opportunity, if you have the time, you can respond through the Monroe Chamber if you're interested in attending. Our legislators, though, too, will be back on November 8th at the chamber meeting as well, if you're interested in meeting up with those, with our representatives again.
All right. Thank you very much. Any other questions for Administrator Knight? All right. Just for me, we've been working on a lot of different things over the last week. A couple of items of note, we continue working on branding. We continued with conducting follow-up interviews for government affairs services for 2023, to begin in 2023. I also have been interviewing a number of people for different boards and commissions. So you can anticipate having a couple of names come forward over the next 2 to 3 meetings, or I should probably say the next 2 to 3 weeks. So again, we're getting some great applicants for those boards and commissions, and I look forward to sharing those names with you that I am appointing and requesting your confirmation of. Had a really great time with the ribbon cutting this evening. I was very happy to see that we had 3 state representatives there. Not only did we have Representative Gaynor and Steele there, but we also had Representative Eslick from the 39th Legislative District there. We also had County Councilmember Lowe there. And we had 3 city council members there as well, Hanford, Kenny, and Fulcher. I really appreciate all the work that everybody did to bring that together for the side, for the walkway that was done. And after the ribbon cutting, we met in here with the legislators and went over the draft legislative agenda. Talked about those items that you've already seen on the agenda, including the importance of State Route 522 with the widening and then with the stoplight. Also talked about Highway 2 and a corridor study. We talked about looking for some capital facilities funds up to about $2 million from the state to help us out with the justice wing that we'd be doing for the municipal and community court, as well as some improvements for the PD portion of the project. And had a really great conversation with them. They were very inquisitive about a number of our issues, and it sounds like they have got a really great level of experience in the issues that we have been working with. I always find it a breath of fresh air for myself when I'm talking to somebody else who is at the state level, who has also served at the city or the county level, because the work that we do here is very much sort of nuts and bolts and concrete, and working with people very directly. And that's different than getting other people that might find their way to the state legislature from other areas. So it's easier for us to kind of speak the same language. They've dealt with the same issues and everything. So I think that they're going to make I'm hopeful that I look forward to continuing to work with them. I forget there's an election going on, so I need to be careful there. So and then after that we went over and joined the senior leadership team and had a really good time just having food, and not just the senior leadership team, but other staff members just sort of introduced themselves, and it was nice just having some informal time with them. So I think that's all I have to report out on for the last week. For the upcoming week, I've got a number of items still working on branding and senior leadership team meeting and some other things that we'll be working on this week. Does anybody have any questions for me? All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda. Flip the page. Okay, so we're now moving on to item 12, and item 12 would be an executive session. So we do have a request tonight for 2 executive sessions. One is potential litigation pursuant to RCW 42.30.110, subsection 1, subsection I. The second one is property acquisition pursuant to RCW 42.30.110, subsection 1, subsection B. Again, That's RCW 42.30.110 subsection 1 subsection little b. I'm going to say that the total for the two of these will begin with 15 minutes. And I think we're going to actually take these in the order of property acquisition first and then potential litigation.
Yep. And we have two, we've got Attorney Lell and Kate Turtolo who are remote, so it's going to take us a couple minutes. Probably would be best if council came down to the.
Okay.
To the
So
tables.
council members, what we're going to do is we're going to move down to the tables there on the floor. We are now in executive session at 7:40 and we'll announce any extensions that might need to occur after 15 minutes. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Lell?
Mr. Mayor, I think it would be appropriate for you to clarify that there will be likely action taken in open session when the council reconvenes.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, that's correct. As always, there may be action to follow. I anticipate that there'll be action to follow the executive sessions. And thank you very much for reminding me, Attorney Lell. So we're now in executive session for 15 minutes with action to follow.
For the record, this is Jody Wyckoff, City Clerk. The executive session has been extended 10 minutes. For the record, this is Jody Wyckoff, City Clerk. The executive session has been extended 5 minutes. For the record, this is Jody Wyckoff, City Clerk. The executive session has been extended 5 minutes. For the record, this is Jody Wyckoff, City Clerk. The executive session has been extended an additional 5 minutes.
All right, we've come out of executive session and we're waiting for Councilmember Fisher to come online. Councilmember Fisher is in the attendees list. Okay, Mr. Lill, just confirming that you can hear us okay?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We're just, Councilmember Fisher, I see you're on now. Can you just give me a thumbs up? Oh, he turned his video off. Thumbs up? Okay, cool. All right, Councilmember Hanford. Oh, I'm sorry, we're back out of executive session. Councilmember Hanford.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to waive the rules of procedure.
Okay, I have a motion to waive the rules of procedure and add an item to the agenda this evening from Councilmember Hanford and seconded by Councilmember Fulcher. Any discussion on the motion? All right, seeing none, we'll move to vote. All in favor? All opposed? Councilmember Fisher, can you confirm that you said aye, please?
Aye.
Okay, and that was aye in approval, correct?
Aye in approval, yes.
Okay, thank you. Any abstentions? All right, motion passes 6-0. We have an item that's been added to the agenda this evening. I turn to Lance Bailey, our Community Development Director. Director Bailey, go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. So the item for consideration this evening is a potential interim ordinance that would be associated with the tourist commercial zone and regulations within that zone. I've passed out to each of the council members some information that I'll be briefly going over this evening. The first thing is a map that shows the location of the tourist commercial zone within the city. The map that's up on the top of what I've handed out reflects the comprehensive plan, future land use map. And the map below is the actual adopted zoning map, which shows the properties that the city currently has zoned for tourist commercial. And the reason that this item is coming before you this evening is post-adoption of the tourist commercial zone, there's been a number of conversations about taking a look at some of the uses that were adopted within that original zone and looking at the compatibility of those uses with the intent and the purpose of the zone. And generally, the purpose of the tourist commercial zone is for uses such as lodging, entertainment, event centers, and tourism-related uses, as well as associated commercial. And the reason that staff is coming before you this evening, particularly to potentially do this as an emergency action, is there's a large piece of property that's currently for sale that is within the tourist commercial zone, and community development has been receiving a number of inquiries, potentially looking at uses that are really not compatible with that intent and purpose of the tourist commercial zone. So having said that, staff has put together 3 different options for council to consider this evening, and I'll briefly go through each one of the options. Option 1 would be to adopt a moratorium, which by its name would suggest that there would be no permits that could be submitted for the property, whether they're land use applications or building permits or any other types of uses within the entire tourist commercial zone. So it would essentially put a stop to any type of development within that zone. Option 2 is a little bit more of a strategic approach where we would eliminate or delete a certain one category of uses out of the tourist commercial zone. And I've included that on page 2 of what I've handed out this evening. And what's bolded in yellow is the category referring to government facilities. And there's a number of uses that are listed underneath that. This option would, in the interim ordinance, would delete these uses from the land use matrix. And then option 3, which is a little more of a narrow approach, and it would essentially add or modify the specific definition for public works maintenance and storage facilities with a note in the land use table, which is included below, underlined and bolded, which would say that government facility shall not include outdoor storage. That's one of the uses that there's been some concern about the compatibility with the tourist commercial zone. Staff is recommending that council consider option 2 this evening. And the reason being that I believe that this particular option would potentially get us to the long-term solution that we're looking for. The moratorium is a little too broad in that it would prevent any kind of applications being submitted for any type of uses within the entire tourist commercial zone. And then option 3, which looks at modifying the definition, is potentially too narrow, and we potentially would have to come back and broaden out the changes that we would consider. Just from a procedural standpoint, keep in mind that if you adopt the interim ordinance this evening, that it would obligate the city to come back, staff to come back within 60 days to hold a public hearing. And so we would be considering that in a public hearing setting. With that, that includes my presentation, and I'd be happy to take questions.
All right, thank you very much, Director Bailey. So council, there are 3 options for your consideration here. We'll just go ahead and click through them really quickly. Option 1 is this one. This would be imposing a temporary moratorium upon the receipt and processing of applications for building and land use development permits, as Director Bailey has described. Option number 2. This is the one that would eliminate various governmental facilities as permitted uses within the tourist commercial zoning district. And then option number 3. This one would be focused on amending chapter 22.12 MMC regarding definitions and other items as Director Bailey has described. So with that, I'm going to see if council members have any questions or any other thoughts on this. I'll have Councilmember Hanford has his light on first, so I'll call on him. Councilmember Hanford, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I do want to make a motion, but first I wanted to kind of review the items that we have listed here. When I'm looking at, when I think about courts, I don't think of that area over by the fairgrounds as like a good area for government courts. The whole idea is tourism, commercial, tourist commercial, and so courts doesn't really fit that bill. Fire stations, same thing, and we have fire stations all spread out. There's no need for a fire station to be there. Same thing with the government administration buildings. And the police stations, we're working on what we're working on now with our long-term plan for this location. So I don't see any of those fitting the tourist bill. And same thing with the public works, maintenance, storage facilities. The idea of things being public works equipment or things being stored out there or used out there is not going to help with our tourism and what our goal is as a city. And then the post office, we already have one of those, so it's a good location. It's right downtown Monroe. To me, it doesn't make sense to, option 2 makes the most sense to keep those types of facilities out of our tourism area where we're trying to bring tourism. So I'm gonna make the motion, but I definitely would love to hear other council members' thoughts. I move to approve or to adopt ordinance number 030. Thank you. I move to adopt ordinance number 030/2022B, adopting interim zoning amendments pursuant to RCW 36.70A.390 and RCW 35A.63.220, amending chapter 22.24 tourist commercial zoning district to eliminate various government facilities as permitted uses within such zone, setting forth preliminary supportive findings, requiring a post-adoption public hearing, providing for severability, declaring a public emergency, and establishing an immediate effective date.
Second. We have a motion from Councilmember Hanford, a second from Councilmember Scarborough for the requested action as option number 2 is shown on the screen right now. Before we move forward, was there any additional information that you needed, clerk? Okay, thank you. So I have a motion from Councilmember Hanford, a second from Councilmember Scarborough. Discussion on the motion. Councilmember Fulcher.
Yeah, and looking at the map there, obviously when doing the comp plan last time, the idea is to have things in that area which are supportive to what's going on there, which is a lot of horse shows, a lot of home shows, all the stuff that is happening is clearly tourist related. And it would be great to have things that are more supportive to what's already happening on that part of the city. The list of things that we are looking at taking out, we do have in other parts of the city. I could see maybe a need for the fire department, but we could find another place for that. But I am certainly in support of option 2. Option 1 is just not where I ever want to go. And option 3, I think is just a little too targeted and we're just going to create an issue later. So, and this is not time of year to be doing public hearings. So, yeah, I'm going to be supporting option 2.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion on the motion? Councilmember Fisher, did you have any questions or anything? No?
No, I do not have any questions. I was just looking over all the stuff that was emailed to me.
All right.
Thank you.
Councilmember Kinney, go ahead.
I just had a question. I also support option 2, but in looking at the conforming use list and the highlighted sections that we're talking about with the courts, fire station, et cetera, right above that is educational facilities. And I'm just wondering, when I think about tourism and that area, I don't know that those really fit either. Just for the record, my opinion. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from the council? Okay, anything further, Director Bailey?
No, nothing further.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and move to vote. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, everybody. Is there any further business this evening? Okay, there's no further business this evening. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. I have a motion to adjourn from Councilmember Scarborough, a second from Councilmember Davis. Any discussion on the motion to adjourn? Seeing none, we'll move to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your week, and I will see you next week. Night, folks. We're adjourned.